Hey y'all, it's Myers Mathematics. This is Kyle. Let's jump into it. We are looking at numbers 15 and 16 today using the quadratic formula. When we're using the quadratic formula, we need to set it equal to 0. Step 1, cry. Step 2, we need to set it equal to 0. And then we can find out what A, B, and C are. So then we find out what A and B and C are. And then we plug them in. Plug in. And once we plug them into the formula, which is right here for your convenience, then you can simplify and get the answers. Simplify. Optional step 6. You want to check your work. Check your work. Always a good idea if you have the time, if you're on a test or a quiz or something important that's worth a lot of points on your grade. So just keep that in mind. But let's jump in. We'll do yellow for 15 and then maybe blue for 16. See if we can do it that way. So we need to get everything on one side. I like to keep things positive in the front. So we would add 3k squared to both sides. That'll give me a 4k squared. Okay, so that's good so far. Okay, so let's add 2k. Add 2k. Looks like that just cancels on both sides. So that happened. And then we add 6. And if this looks like it's a lot going on here, you can always break this up and do it one at a time. I'm kind of doing like 3 steps at once a little bit. They're all spaced out. But, if that looks a little too busy, if that's a little too intimidating, you can always break it up a little bit for yourself there. But this is going to be minus 25 equal to 0. And that's a little weird because we don't really have a k. The k canceled. So what do we do with that? Well, a is 4. What's b then? Well, b would have to be 0. There's no k. It canceled. There's 0k. There's plus 0k. So b is 0. And then c is negative 25. Now, note that this is a worksheet where you have to use the quadratic formula. So we're going to use the quadratic formula. However, it's kind of overkill in this instance. And I'll show you why after we do the quadratic formula. So let's plug it in. X is equal to negative b plus or minus. And I like to do the square root part off to the side. So let's do that. B squared minus 4 times a times c. All right, so b squared minus 4ac. B squared is just, 0 squared, so that's 0. 4 times 25 is 100. Times 4 is 400. So that's going to be positive 400. And that has a square root, actually. It's 20. Oh, sorry. Forgot to not put the square root on the answer. I've seen some of my students do that, too. So, hopefully if you've done that before, let me know in the comments because I normally don't, but every now and then, you just kind of forget, so it's all good. It happens with us. So we got 20 there, so that's going to go here. B squared minus 4ac all over 2a. 2 times a. And that's equal to x. Well, in this case, it's k, I guess, but, whatever. K. Okay, so that's going to be 0. Negative 0 is still 0. So plus or minus 20 over 8 basically is our answer. So 20 over 8 would simplify down. If you only simplify it down by 2 because you notice that they're both even, that would be fine. You would just keep going. And then you can write it as, 5 halves. And then the other one, will this even fit? This is going to be 20. Let's see if I can squeeze that in there. It's not even, you're not even going to be able to see it at first. Okay, hold on. We got this. It's going to be negative 20 over 8, which is going to be the same thing, just plus or minus, right? So negative 10 fourths. Hopefully you guys can see that. There we go. And that's going to be negative 5 halves. So plus or minus 5 halves. So why was it that this one was kind of overkill? Well, if I solve it a different way, let's say I just bring this over here for a second. So if I just add 25 to both sides, because I only have one k, one type of k, I don't need to factor at all. don't even need to factor. I can just go straight into solving it like a normal equation. I would just do this, and then I would get k is equal to 25 fourths. Sorry, k squared is equal to 25 fourths. And then I would take the square root, and the square root is plus or minus the plus or minus of 25 fourths, which would be plus or minus 5 halves. So there you go. You get it that way as well. So when I say check, you can check it however you want. You could just take those numbers, plug them back in, and do all the math, like k squared would be 5 halves squared, minus 31 minus 2k, and then see what that is, and then do the right-hand side separately, and then see if those numbers match up. Whew, that's a lot of work, especially if you're not allowed to use a calculator. If you're allowed to use a calculator, then use a calculator, because then that would be easier to check it that way. If you're not, then just maybe solve it a different way. Like, it didn't say that you are not supposed to use some other method besides the quadratic formula just to check your work, right? I don't think your teacher's going to be mad if you use a different method to check to make sure your answer is correct. We still ended up solving it using the quadratic formula. So if your teacher has a problem with that, then you probably need a new teacher. So yeah. But we got plus or minus 5 halves, and we double checked that by using a regular factoring method. So now I'm going to scroll over here, and if you didn't catch all of that, you can always just pause, buffer back a little bit, and grab that. But we're going to go ahead and move on to this one. 9n squared. I guess it would be easier to just move that over to the right. But like I said before, I like to keep that leading term positive. So even though it's a little bit more work, I'm actually going to prefer to do it this way, where I slash that and move this over. And I'm just kind of putting them somewhere. I'm not actually going to do 9n squared minus 4 because they're not like terms, but I just needed to put it somewhere to show that I'm doing that on both sides. So 9n squared minus 7n minus 4 equals 0. And now I know what my a, b, and c values are. So step 1, cry, shed a tear. And then step 2, set it equal to 0. We did that. Now we're on step 3. What is a, b, and c? A is 9. B is negative 7. C is negative 4. Okay, so now we're on step 4. We plug it into the formula, and like I said before, I like to plug in the b squared minus 4ac part, like kind of off to the side a little bit. But, it's kind of totally up to you. If you wanted to do it like the normal way, you can do that as well. And if you want to see what that looks like, I guess we can do one of each. So we'll do one where you can see, and this is, I'll show you the old-fashioned way to do it. And I can't write and talk at the same time sometimes. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. So notice how big and long that is. I mean, it takes up so much space to put it all together in one thing. That's why I like to kind of separate it out. But you don't have to. So here we go. Negative 7, or you could say the opposite of negative 7, which is 7, plus or minus. Negative 7 squared is positive 49. 4 times 9 is 36. It's going to be minus 36 times negative 4. Over 18. So notice that it takes so much space to do it this way. But, it is what it is. I'm going to move this back over. That way I'm not writing on top of my face. 7 plus or minus, and then that's going to be 49 plus, because we have a minus times a minus, and that's going to be what, 144? Yeah, sounds about right. 144 over 18. And then that's going to be 7 plus or minus the square root of, see how much longer this takes? It takes forever. 9 and 4, 13, 34. Oh, let's carry a 1, so that's 9. I don't like this problem at all. This one's much, much worse than the previous one. Yikes, because that's not even going to turn into anything. 193, what does that even divide by? This is the worst. The worst. This is worse than Mona Lisa Saperstein. Okay, let me make sure I'm not doing anything wrong here, because this is what's going on with this problem? No, yeah, it is actually just that bad. Okay. Because I'm cheating. Sorry, I'm looking at the answer and I'm like, oh yeah, we're done. Actually, that is the answer. I was like, surely I did something wrong because this is terrible. No, that's actually just the answer. So, um, yeah, yeah, there you go. So, moral of the story there is even though it's ugly, sometimes you just have to deal with it. I'm not talking about you. You're amazing, but maybe one of your friends is. No, just kidding. Um, so 7 plus or minus the square root of 193 over 18 is the answer. If you want to check it, you can plug it back in. I don't recommend doing it that way, but you could because the square root of 193 is irrational. This is an irrational answer, so you're not able to factor it some other way to check your work, unless you did like completing the square. But completing the square is also kind of the worst. It's like Ralphio. It's not the worst, but it's close to the worst. So if you're able to use a calculator, what you could do though is you could just say, okay, what is in the calculator? Boop 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 boop, or boop 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 boop. 7 plus the square root of 193 over 18. Do that in the calculator, um, and then plug that in. And so you would do that, square that, times it by 9, and then do 4 plus 7 times that number, and see if those numbers are the same. So you could do it that way. If you're using a calculator, this wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to check. It's still kind of an ugly answer though, so it's hard to check ugly answers. It is what it is. But that's about it. So yeah, hope that's been helpful. There's other videos like this that you can check out. This is what is the worksheet called? Factoring using the quadratic. Well, I guess it's not factoring. I guess you're not really factoring, but you can factor by checking. You can check it by factoring. I am all tongue tied today. I apologize. I should probably like cut that out, but I probably won't because I just don't. I'll just leave it in. But anyways, I hope that's been helpful. And yeah, so if you want to see other videos like this, they're all attached at the end of the video. It should be popping up pretty soon as we're closing out here. You can check out the other videos in this series on Algebra 1 worksheets. So you can check that out, and you can check out my website as well, myersmathematics.com, where I have the 5 math mistakes everyone makes and how to avoid them. We can grab it there. It's a free PDF. So go get it, and I'll catch you in the next video. Blessings, y'all.